What's going on, everyone? So, Dan Hurley rejected the Lakers' offer, and he is now sticking around in UConn. So, Lakers are back on the coaching search. They're back on the coaching grind. And one of the names that was thrown out was Jay Wright. Now, this was basically reported yesterday, 2 days ago, whatever it was. I wanted to wait to talk about it because I wanted, obviously, to see what was going to happen with Dan Hurley. I didn't believe he was coming. I didn't think Dan Hurley was coming. But you never know, right? Again, not an insider, just a fan. So I was willing to wait and see. Well, now Dan Hurley's not coming, so let's move on to Jay Wright. Now, Jay Wright, again, another legendary coach, was the former coach of Villanova, right? He is a guy that, again, makes some sense for the Lakers, right? Has some experience, well-respected, can kind of bring, the idea is to kind of bring the college structure to the NBA. And what I mean by that is like college is like this never-ending carousel and just cycle of players, right? Every year you have, an influx of talent coming in and out, right? Well, due to the new CBA, rosters are going to be like that a lot, right? Like, you'll keep XYZ player, but for the most part, you're going to have more particular the kind of back end of the roster is going to constantly have this influx. And what the Lakers want to do is they want to establish a sort of system and culture that allows them to kind of cycle through and grow and develop players that can kind of be the next wave, right? So it's not so much necessarily your first through third or first through fourth player, or maybe even necessarily your starting five. It's more so the anywhere from the fourth to your 15th best player, right? And rounding out a roster with young talent, undrafted talent, second-round picks, especially second-round picks because they don't affect the cap the way that other things do, right? Like the new CBA has made it like, okay, you want to kind of stack your team with second-round picks, which makes second-round picks more valuable now, undrafted guys, cheap talent. And the Lakers really want to bring in somebody that can help grow and steadfast that talent, right? To where it's like, okay, right now we have 6, 7 guys, right? But in the next 2, 3 years, 3 of those or 4 of those 7 are going to end up being on another roster. We're cycling the next wave, right? Bring in some new talent. So I don't think it'll necessarily be like every year you're doing the hockey change, but I do think that it will be something along the lines of like, every few years you're going to see this roster kind of turnover, right? I don't think that it'll just be the Lakers. I think a lot of these teams will, right? Because again, the new CBA, when you get to a point where you're going to have to start paying guys and it's like all these guys are going to demand more money. Like none of these guys are going to be worth hindering what we're potentially working towards as far as like the roster build, right? Like these 3 guys are the difference between us being, in the next apron or us staying under the apron. Get rid of these guys. They're not that good and bring in 3 new guys. You get my point? So the idea, bringing in a guy like Jay to come in and kind of, again, lay that foundation, implement a structure, kind of, because again, these college coaches, they understand that system. They understand the recruiting. They have a good eye for talent. They kind of know and usually are good at developing players and for the next level. Well, same idea. You're developing these players for the next level. Development programs are going to be very important. And what the Lakers are really trying to carve out, really trying to build, right? So I do like the idea of Jay, but a couple things with that is he is very happy and very comfortable where he's at as a commentator, making very good money, still gets to be close to the game, he doesn't have to work as hard, he doesn't have to do all the ins and outs, he doesn't have to deal with all the noise kids. He shows up, puts the headset on, sits down, so is he again, would it take for him to go, yeah, that's what let's get rid of this and come in and go over here to coach the Lakers? I'm not saying that he wouldn't want to coach again. I mean, it's very possible he would. But again, it comes down to what would it take to get him? And is it worth kind of throwing the kitchen sink at him? Right? A lot of people thought Dan Hurley was worth it. But again, he still was a gamble. Right? Like, let's say the Lakers gave him 10 years, $150 million. Right? Like, what happens 3 years in and it doesn't work and it's not working, or 4 years in or 5 years in, right? Let's say it's just Hey, we're not doing very well. The structure isn't where we want it to be. He's not able to translate to, because again, the history of college coaches coming to the NBA and having success is not very good. The track record does not look good, right? So it's like there is that. Now, again, I thought Dan Hurley would have been one of the outliers. I thought he would be one of the guys that would be able to make the jump because of his philosophies, the way he just relentlessly prepares, tactician, the militant guy that he is in that regard. His offensive schemes and structures, I think, really adapt nicely to an NBA level, right? Like to kind of simplify and give people an idea. Think of like the Spurs, think of like the Warriors and their kind of, free flowing, constant action and movement type offense. That's kind of where we're at, right? It's a very simplistic form, but just so anybody can grasp it, right? Like that's the idea. So I did think Dan would translate. Jay, I'm not as confident, right? I don't think that he wouldn't, but I'm not as confident. But again, like, so what, right? Let's say we do have confidence that he does, and the Lakers do have confidence they do, right? One, it's kind of a name that just kind of came out of the field, and I do feel like it's kind of like, well, okay, this college coach didn't work, so let's do this one, right? Like, and they're just kind of throwing out names at this point. I do ultimately still think it's going to be Jay Redick, personally. It's just my thoughts. I could be wrong. Been wrong before. Probably be wrong again at some point. So maybe it is. But to me, it's like, okay, you're going to bring him right. Like, okay, what, like, are you offering him the same contract as Dan Hurley? Okay, even if you are, what are the pros and cons for Jay? Like, how does he perceive? Does he look at that as like, yeah, I really want to get back into coaching? Maybe he has that itch that he's like, I need to scratch, right? I want to take that leap back into coaching. Man, I coach in the NBA and I could coach the Lakers, right? Like, if that's something he's interested in, then sure, right? But again, it's another guy that has that fallback plan that he's comfortable in, which is the same trap that I thought the Lakers fell into with Dan Hurley, which is why I didn't believe Dan Hurley would come, right? Because again, unless it's something that just is so far and away a blowout, which I don't believe makes sense for the Lakers, right? Like the only way I saw Dan Hurley potentially going to the Lakers would have been if the Lakers offered him 20 to 25, like made him by far the highest paid head coach in the NBA. And it's like, man, because you got to take into account taxes and all these other things, all these other factors, living in LA, right? Adjusting to that lifestyle. Like, there's a lot that goes into being in LA, right? Like, so to me, it was kind of like, okay, I don't see it, because unless the Lakers are willing to give that like Godfather package, which there's an inherent risk in and of itself. And if you're wrong, that doesn't go right. You can't just like fire him and call it a day. I mean, look at like the Pistons with Monty Williams right now, right? They're reluctant to fire him because it's like, man, we're going to pay this guy for 5 years to not coach and pay him $70 million. It's a lot of money, especially for what Jeannie's not this super wealthy, super successful owner, right? She's not Steve Ballmer. Steve Ballmer's like, I have that sitting in my couch cushion, right? Like, it's no, like for the Lakers, it's like, that's a pretty penny if it doesn't work out. Now we're in trouble, right? So to me, you translate that to Jay, and it's like, okay, again, he's comfortable. He's close to the game. He still has relationships. He's still getting to, kind of scratch that itch a little bit, right? There's not this like sense of like, man, I really want to get back to the game. Like, like when coaches and athletes and stuff, they retire, they're like, man, like, what do I have to do to get back to the game, right? So it's like, again, there's not this pressing need and desire to necessarily have to be the Lakers head coach, where somebody like J.J. Redick, again, like, yes, he can go back to commentary. Yes, he can do that, but it's not like he wants to be a coach, right? He wants to be that X's and O guy. He wants to, and he doesn't have like all these hurdles that he has to jump, right? Like, he's fine living in LA, right? He did it already. Right? He understands what comes with the lifestyle. He understands the taxes. He understands like all the things that go into that, right? He has a relationship and a tie with LeBron. Right? Like you start again weighing the pros and cons of all these candidates, and it's like, JJ, I get why he was the front runner for a month and a half, and why he makes the most sense. And then you start weighing these other guys like Dan Hurley, again, weighing it, it's like, it doesn't make sense for him. Same thing with Jay. It doesn't make sense for him. Right? Now, again, Could he? Maybe he does. It's possible. I don't know. I just, again, kind of weigh and I go, like, he's good, right? Like, he doesn't necessarily want to do that. Hey, he could have other coaching, yeah? Like, you don't think he could go into coaching again? Yeah, of course he could. But it's like, he's happy. He's making good money. He gets to do all the things that he wants to do. Like, I just don't think it's this pressing, like, oh, I really need to get in. Like, JJ, you've heard him talk about, like I feel like so distant from the game. Like, I feel like I need to get, like, you listen to him talk and it's like he clearly wants to be closer, right? Like, he's commentating. He's at the NBA Finals, right? And he still seems like that itch isn't being scratched. Go being a head coach, right? Like, to me, it's like, that's why I get it. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Think we should get the former Villanova head coach? Do you think no? Stay away from Jay? Do you think no? Go grab him. No, again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.